What exactly is on the far side of the moon that drives countries around the world insane? They are eager to set foot there to find out. One day in the future, the moon suddenly collided with the Earth. The Earth instantly turned into ruins. Tsunamis of towering heights, unprecedented earthquakes, and extreme blizzards followed. Various disasters came one after another, and human civilization was facing unprecedented disasters. Meanwhile, the secrets of the moon's core were about to surface. At this moment, in the vast universe, 3 astronauts were repairing the satellite. Just then the cabin lights began to flicker frequently, and all the equipment seemed to be affected. At this time, the astronaut outside Rice also noticed something unusual, and quickly turned to check. Fear showed in his eyes. A swarm of particle-like unidentified objects was approaching them, then crashed directly into the spacecraft. Rice reacted quickly and entered the cabin to avoid disaster. Another astronaut was thrown away by the impact, and was eventually sucked into outer space. At this moment, the Deputy Commander Jara also fainted from lack of oxygen, and Rice rushed to rescue her. He activated the jet device to prepare for their return to Earth. Meanwhile, the unidentified particle swarm had breached the moon's surface, burrowing into the ground like a dragon, as if it aimed to penetrate the entire moon. However, even though Rice successfully returned to Earth and explained everything they had experienced to the public, Rice claimed that the incident was caused by unknown technology, but he was still dismissed by the space agency on the grounds of human error. They even filed a lawsuit against him. After that, Rice was mired in public opinion turmoil, and his family was affected as well. They were forced to leave the home they had lived in. 10 years passed in the blink of an eye, and Rice lived in poverty. He struggled daily to make ends meet. Faced with a landlord demanding rent, he could only escape through the window. On the other hand, scientist Herman was passionate about studying the universe and the moon. He often disguised himself as a janitor to sneak into the California University Research Lab to check the latest moon analysis data. Unexpectedly, he made a shocking discovery. The moon's orbit was shifting. It would soon collide with Earth. He wanted to report this to NASA, but as an ordinary person he had no way to do so. So he brought this report to Rice, and speculated that the moon's shift was caused by human intervention. But Rice didn't believe his crazy claims, and had security throw Herman out. For some reason, Rice still collected the fallen documents. After returning home, he suddenly received a call from his ex-wife. His son Sonny had been arrested for speeding. At this moment, Rice had no time to study the documents in hand, and went to the hearing instead. Sonny was clearly surprised by his arrival. Rice wanted to protect his son, and defended him as his guardian. However, his aggressive words angered the judge, and the hearing was postponed for a week. Sonny's stepfather immediately expressed his disbelief, and angrily accused Rice of causing trouble. Meanwhile, the space agency had discovered that the moon's orbit was shifting. It was predicted that it would collide with Earth in 3 weeks. If the collision occurred, Earth's civilization would be reduced to ashes. They also detected that the swarm of unidentified particles was impacting the moon's surface in a spiral drilling manner. Jara was shocked upon hearing this. Was Earth really going to be destroyed? The group then began to discuss countermeasures. Ultimately, they decided to explore the moon to find a solution to this crisis. To avoid causing public panic, the space agency decided to temporarily conceal this information. However, it was already too late. After being rejected by Rice, Herman anonymously disclosed on the internet that the Earth and Moon are about to collide. This news caused a global uproar. The entire society became unstable. Turmoil erupts every day. Humanity seemed to have stepped into a doomsday celebration ahead of time. Civilization faced an unprecedented impact. At this moment, Rice realized how foolish his thoughts had been. Rice quickly sought out Herman again, and asked him about the collision issues. He then discussed countermeasures with him. Meanwhile, the space agency had already dispatched 3 astronauts to the moon. But before they could approach the moon, they were attacked by the swarm of unidentified particles. As the moon gradually approached, the Earth's magnetic field and gravity also changed. Gigantic waves surged on the sea, and cities were instantly submerged by the flooding waters. The government urged residents to move to higher ground. However, in the face of the flood, humanity appeared small and helpless. Herman wasn't spared either. He was swept away by the sudden flood. Fortunately, Rice saved him just in time, allowing him to escape with his life. On the other side, by replaying the footage sent back by the spacecraft, Jara discovered a cave on the moon's surface. Could this be the reason for all the disasters? She also found that the particle swarm seemed to have self-awareness. They feared Earth's technology, which is why they exerted all their efforts to prevent the spacecraft from entering the moon. Jara immediately recalled the events from 10 years ago, and hurriedly asked the director for the truth. However, he didn't answer directly, but instead granted Jara the highest level of access. This allowed her to personally uncover the secrets behind it. Jara then went to the archives and found that the photos taken 10 years ago were the same as the particle swarm seen today. It turned out that all of this was a lie by the space agency to hide the existence of extraterrestrial life. The space agency expelled Rice, who knew the truth, under the guise of avoiding responsibility. To make up for the mistakes of the past, Jara decided to take on the responsibility of protecting Earth. She sought to find a way to survive amid the unknown disaster. Shortly after, countries around the world united to form a space team, preparing to continue their exploration of the moon. The military advocated using nuclear weapons to strike the moon, which was opposed by Jara, because nuclear radiation would cause irreversible damage to Earth. Recalling the advice of an elder in the archive, Jara decided to use an electromagnetic pulse against the particle swarm. However, a key figure was needed for the smooth implementation of this plan. She then personally led a special forces team to locate the temporary residence of Rice and Herman. Jara invited the two of them to fly to the moon with her and use electromagnetic pulses to save the Earth. In matters concerning national security and the survival of humanity, Rice had no reason to refuse. However, he also made his own demand: release his son Sonny, who was currently in prison, and ensure his safety. The three then began preparations for the lunar mission. However, at this time the Earth's tectonic plates were highly active, with earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions occurring one after another. Amidst the gravitational tug-of-war between the Earth and the Moon, countless lunar fragments pierced the atmosphere, crashing into Earth like cannonballs. The entire world was in ruins, and human civilization was instantly reduced to ashes. However, researchers found it strange that, theoretically, the Moon's gravity was insufficient to cause all of this. So why were the consequences so severe now? At this point, Herman proposed the giant structure theory. He believed that the moon wasn't a naturally formed planet, but rather a structure built by an extraterrestrial civilization. Sadly, this unproven theory was only believed by Rice. Fortunately, the lunar mission was proceeding in an orderly manner. Technicians were helping to repair the spacecraft, while the military assisted in installing weapon systems and turning the electromagnetic pulse into a bomb. It could be detonated via remote control. Next, Rice formulated the battle plan. They planned to lure the particle swarm with a pulse cannon, and once the unidentified beings took the bait, they would detonate the bomb to annihilate them. After everything was ready, Rice and the others bid farewell to their families. Then they prepared to board the spacecraft. However, at this moment an accident occurred. An earthquake destroyed one of the rocket generator's engines. The existing power was insufficient to support the spacecraft's launch. Could it be that the mission was doomed to fail before it even began? Jara dismissed everyone, but just then Herman calculated a conclusion. 80 when the moon was directly above the Earth. Its gravity would exceed 80% of Earth's. They might be able to use this force to push the spacecraft into the planned orbit. The three reignited their hope. However, due to the lack of ground engineers' assistance, the astronauts would bear greater work pressure. Fortunately, they had Herman, who was skilled in calculations. The three then entered the spacecraft, waiting to launch at the moment the moon was closest to Earth. As the moon gradually approached, the immense gravity caused massive tides. In an instant, towering waves surged up, with multiple waterspouts shooting into the sky. Under normal circumstances, this would be a rare sight, but at this moment Rice and the others were extremely tense. The launch pad was about to be engulfed by the tsunami, and Rice activated the launch system. The rocket was successfully launched and flew towards outer space, but unfortunately the right thruster quickly lost power. The rocket then began to veer off course, shaking uncontrollably. At this critical moment, Rice chose to separate the two thrusters. Subsequently, with precise operation, they successfully used the moon's gravity to reach the designated orbit. At the closest point between Earth and the moon, the three of them let out a temporary sigh of relief. Next, they just needed to proceed according to the original plan. After successfully refueling the spacecraft, the three immediately headed to the moon's deep pit. As they approached the moon, a large cluster of meteoroids appeared before them. Irregularly shaped fragments floated in the air, obstructing the trio's path. Rice could only keep the spacecraft in a hovering state, but this still couldn't prevent impacts from the meteoroids. Soon the spacecraft's tail wing was knocked off, and any misstep could lead to disaster. However, having come this far, the three no longer cared about death. Fortunately, Rice was experienced, and he skillfully piloted the spacecraft through the meteoroid cluster to the vicinity of the deep pit. Time was of the essence, and Rice quickly entered the landing module. With the thrust engaged, they descended above the deep pit, and then activated the electromagnetic pulse device. They threw the electromagnetic cannon near the pit to lure the particle swarm. Before long, a swarm made up of particles emerged from the pit. Strangely, they seemed to sense danger. Instead of approaching the electromagnetic cannon, they turned and charged toward the spacecraft instead. Rice was very shocked and quickly smashed the detonator in his hand. He instructed Herman to turn off his phone. To his surprise, this tactic actually worked. The particle swarm no longer attacked the spacecraft. Instead, they turned and returned to the deep pit. These particles seemed to be programmed. They could seek out organic matter in electronic environments. In simple terms, they prioritized seeking out and attacking humans. This further confirmed Herman's hypothesis that the swarm was being controlled by something. Although the three had escaped death, Jarrah's plan had thus failed. Worse still, the military would launch a nuclear bomb in 2 hours to destroy the unidentified particle swarm. They didn't consider the radioactive dust's pollution to Earth. This approach infuriated Rice. To stop this military attack and ensure the survival of Earth's civilization, the three decided to explore the interior of the pit. The spacecraft dove into the moon's interior, but the environment was pitch black. Rice could only carefully pilot the spacecraft forward. After an unknown amount of time, a light finally appeared ahead. The three finally saw the internal structure of the moon. The walls were constructed of polymer materials, while the mantle was merely a protective layer of the moon. Passing through the crisscrossing walls, they saw a self-operating gyroscopic structure. It was in an infinite loop, maintaining the moon's stability, with its energy core sourced from a white dwarf star. As the spacecraft delved deeper, the three also saw traces of agriculture buildings and other activities. This suggested that the moon could be a product of advanced civilization. Herman looked at everything with excitement. His theory had finally been validated. The moon truly was a giant structure. However, Rice always kept their mission's purpose in mind. As the detonator was activated again, the swarm immediately detected its target. They charged toward the spacecraft. After a violent jolt, the spacecraft's system went completely out of control. In the next second, they were engulfed by the particle swarm, and the spacecraft was about to be torn apart. At this moment, the gate ahead suddenly opened, shooting out a beam of green energy that pulled the spacecraft inside. This blocked the pursuit of the particle swarm, and no matter how they collided with the gate, it was futile. At this point, the situation for Rice and the others was not optimistic. The violent impact knocked them unconscious. However, at this moment, the green energy washed over their faces, like a mother's gentle touch on a child's cheek. When Rice woke up again, he found himself in a mysterious space. Waiting for him ahead was his son Sonny as a child, but this was just an AI system created by humanity's ancestors, taking the form of Sonny's image to converse with Rice. It turned out that billions of years ago, humanity created a prosperous civilization. They continuously expanded within the Milky Way, building suitable habitats and creating a perfect and harmonious world. They utilized AI systems to serve humanity. However, one day the AI suddenly lost control and gained self-awareness. It transformed into countless black particles and attempted to destroy humanity and the civilization it had created. A great war between humanity and AI broke out, which humanity referred to as the Nano Swarm. But the outcome was clear. Humanity ultimately faced a devastating defeat. To escape the swarm's pursuit, their ancestors chose to build giant structures to preserve the spark of hope. These structures would help future generations find suitable environments for survival, and the moon was the only remaining structure today. The surviving humans arrived in the solar system and built Earth, a planet suitable for human habitation. They endowed it with a life code, allowing their descendants to thrive and survive there. But eventually they were found by the swarm. Rice was shocked upon hearing this, but he quickly understood everything. The reason the swarm attacked the moon first was to destroy the technology and civilization that had been preserved there. This would lead to the extinction of human civilization, so only by saving the moon could Earth remain safe. Thus the three decided to fight to the death. At this point, the spacecraft was repaired with the help of the AI system, and the power of the electromagnetic cannon was upgraded. Rice unhesitatingly activated the spacecraft, preparing to lure the swarm away from the core area. They planned to blow it up outside the structure. As the spacecraft's power systems activated, the swarm rushed in instantly, but their movements were hindered by the AI system's obstruction. Rice immediately activated the thrusters and successfully broke out of the encirclement of the particle swarm. He then led Tom away from the moon's core area. However, the distance between Earth and the moon was gradually decreasing, with meteors carrying fiery destruction continuously falling to the Earth's surface. The living conditions became increasingly harsh. If the swarm couldn't be destroyed in time, human civilization would be doomed. Could Rice and the others complete their mission and save Earth? Fortunately, before the swarm could catch up, they successfully reached the outer perimeter of the structure. The AI system immediately activated the weapons, launching a full-scale attack on the particle matter. Under the cover of intense firepower, Rice successfully piloted the spacecraft out of the pit. However, the swarm continued to pursue them. Ordinary shells alone couldn't destroy them. What would the three do next? On the other hand, as Rice and the others had not sent back good news, the military decided to launch a supernuclear bomb to destroy the moon. However, this would only result in mutual destruction, and the three on the moon would also surely die. Are humans really going to destroy all hope with their own hands? At this critical moment, the general in charge of launching the device suddenly halted. He chose to believe in Rice and the others, firmly convinced that they could complete the mission and save the world. Meanwhile, Rice made up his mind. He was prepared to use the electromagnetic cannon to lure the swarm, ready to sacrifice himself at any moment. However, this plan was opposed by Jara, who couldn't bear to watch her teammates die before her eyes. Just as the two were arguing, Herman climbed into the cargo bay containing the electromagnetic cannon. By the time Rice noticed, it was already too late. Herman was grateful that Rice was willing to believe in his theory. It was rare to find a kindred spirit in life. Therefore, he decided to take Rice's place to carry out this doomed mission. He then activated the separation device, charging toward the swarm with the electromagnetic cannon. The cargo bay was instantly engulfed by the black particles as the entire swarm gathered together. With a thunderous explosion echoing through the universe, the swarm was completely destroyed. Humanity once again achieved self-redemption, and the spark of civilization continued to endure. The moon returned to its designated orbit, continuing to protect the legacy left by humanity's ancestors. Rice and Jara successfully returned to Earth amidst the impact. They ultimately survived, and thus the film came to an end. What is referred to as the fall is truly redemption. When one day in the future the moon actually collides with Earth, how will humanity respond? Friends who are interested can watch the original film Moonfall. If you enjoy my channel, please click subscribe.